Book of Matthew, chapter 18 and verse 21. Then came Peter to him and said, Lord, how oft shall my brother sin against me, and I forgive him? Till 7 times.
It ain't nowhere that I can't go. You see me, you see him, I'm like children in the flame though. It's because I follow him though. He the light to my feet, it's like flames what I follow. But let me stop for you heathos. I've been crossed many times, so yes I know the pain, yo. And forgive is where I ain't go. Told the brother get in line, giving shots like a needle. I've been sinning for real, murder, but I ain't killed for real. Shot for shot to seal the deal. Now I'm here, just swallow the pill. Now I'm woozy, don't know how to act. Devilish mind on fully attack. My spirit to flesh had taken it back, and I ain't thinking about bringing it back. Tap, tap, I think I ain't hear it right. The Lord come like a thief at night, but I ain't believe the hype. Yeah, like Saul when I seen the night, but had me feeling like Paul when I found the light. Cap, 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 cap. You say you love your people, but that's cap, cap, cap. You swear you don't be lying, but that's cap, cap, cap. You say you did atonement, but that's cap, cap, cap. I say cap, 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 cap. You say you love your nation, but that's cap, cap, cap. You swear you done with envy, but that's cap, cap, cap. You say you did atonement, but that's cap, cap, cap. I say.
So Peter said, if a brother sin against me, he offends, he does something unlawful. Could have took your money, could have tail barreled again, any of those types. How many times should I forgive? 7 times? Because 7 was a complete number. What did the matter?
Jesus said unto him, I say not unto thee until 7 times, but until 70 times 7. Book of Matthew, chapter 18 and verse.
We good? All right, shalom, y'all. Most High in Christ, bless. Happy feast. Happy Sabbath, happy feast. Happy memorial blowing of the trumpets. I'm your brother Jacob, to my left.
Brother Roy.
And tonight we're going to just go over just a few basic scriptures on why we keep this feast. And it's called the memorial blowing of trumpets. It has a higher meaning, but we're not touching into that tonight. We'll do that some other time. But we're just going to hit a few basic scriptures, and then we're going to do a little bit of history just for a few minutes so that you can continue to enjoy your feast. So we're not even going to go to our usual opening up scriptures. Let's go straight to it. Leviticus 23. Read verse 1.
The book of Leviticus, chapter 23 and verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them concerning the feasts of the Lord, which ye shall proclaim to be holy convocations, even these are my feasts.
So I wanted to go to this verse because whenever you look at the commandments, the instructions, they're always for the children of Israel. Even though we had a mixed multitude leave Egypt following us, the commandments will always speak unto the children of Israel. So this is one of the feasts for the children of Israel. Now, verse 23.
The book of Leviticus, chapter 23 and verse 23. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, saying, In the 7th month, in the 1st day of the month, shall ye have a Sabbath, a memorial of blowing of trumpets, in holy convocation.
So you go back to Exodus. The first month of the year to us is that time period after the vernal equinox. That first new moon after that starts our year. That's the beginning of our months. That's what you read in Exodus chapter 12. So now it's 7 months later. Tonight is 7 months later. And it says you shall have a Sabbath. So we don't do no working, no servile work today. Being that we're in captivity, you do the best that you can. And it's a holy convocation. So it don't matter if you gather with one person or 2 or 200. You're supposed to gather on this day. Verse 25.
Ye shall do no servile work therein, but ye shall offer an offering made by fire unto the Lord.
Right. So now, we'll go to Numbers next, but before we do, verse 27 said, also on the 10th day of this month is the Day of Atonement. So I have already started practicing for the Day of Atonement. It would be wise for you to do the same. So now, this may be somebody's first time. Well, if you've never done a real fast before, then now would be the time to start practicing. So like, in my daily walk, I don't eat until 12 o'clock or after, because I do that type of intermittent fast, and I want to make sure that I don't do any kind of snacks or eat anything after 12 o'clock, and then I wait 12 hours before I eat the next day. That's something I do every day. But what you can do, you start doing that now and preparing yourself to go one complete day, 24 hours from even to even, without eating or drinking. And the thing about it is, when the Lord said, if you do that, if you afflict your soul for him, he will wipe your slate clean. Anything you've done in the past, anything, he will forgive you for it. So now is the perfect time to start practicing for that.
Not even just the eating part. Make sure you're hydrating yourself days before that fast, because, like you said, it's eating and drinking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing we do when that time approaches, get you some fruits, like
Watermelon.
if you get
Cucumber.
watermelon, yep, cantaloupe, anything that has water in it, oranges, grapefruits, any of that type of stuff, nectarines, and you eat that, it has water in it, but it breaks down over time, so that way you stay hydrated. Let's go to Psalms 82 first, before I forget. Not 82, Psalms 81. Yeah, start at 1.
The book of Psalm, chapter 81 and verse 1. Sing aloud unto God our strength. Make a joyful noise unto the God of Jacob. Take a psalm and bring hither the timbrel, the pleasant harp with psaltery. Blow up the trumpet in the new moon.
Right. This feast is the memorial blowing of the trumpets, and we're supposed to blow the trumpets on every new moon. So this is the highest new moon that there is. Go ahead.
In the time appointed on our solemn feast day.
Right.
For this was a statute for Israel and a law of the God of Jacob.
Right. Come on.
This he ordained in Joseph for a testimony when he went out through the land of Egypt, where I heard a language that I understood not.
Right. So when we came out of Egypt, that's when he ordained the new moons, the new moon feast. Numbers 10. Start at Start at 1.
The book of Numbers, chapter 10 and verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Make thee 2 trumpets of silver. Of a whole piece shalt thou make them, that thou mayest use them for the calling of the assembly, and for the journeying of the camps.
See, for the calling of the assembly, when you read in Hebrews, the general assembly in the church of the firstborn, which is the children of Israel, that's the assembly. So when the trumpet is blown, it's to gather us together. When you look at these feast days, every feast day has a significance, but we're not going to get into that tonight, but each feast day has a significance. So you blow the trumpet for the assembly. Verse 3.
And when they shall blow with them, all the assembly shall assemble themselves to thee at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation.
Right. Hold that. Exodus 19. We're going to keep it short. I'm not going to get carried away. Verse 13.
The book of Exodus, chapter 19 and verse 13. There shall not an hand touch it, but he shall surely be stoned or shot through. Whether it be beast or man, it shall not live. When the trumpet soundeth long, they shall come up to the mount.
Right, so when the trumpet sound long, they shall come up to the mount. When that trumpet sound long, we supposed to come together. You know the prophecy that in the last day, it's going to be that last trump calling us together. Now, verse 16.
Verse 16. And it came to pass on the third day in the morning that there were thunders and lightnings, and a thick cloud upon the mount, and the voice of the trumpet exceeding loud, so that all the people that was in the camp trembled.
Right. So I don't know who was blowing that trumpet, but yo, this is when you get into the next chapter. We told Moses, like, Moses, you talk to him. We don't want to talk to him. So there's meaning behind the blowing of the trumpet. Back to Numbers 10. Go to. Oh, keep going. We've just read 3, so go to 4. Yeah, pick back up at 4.
The book of Numbers, chapter 10 and verse 4. And if they blow but with one trumpet, then the princes which are heads of the thousands of Israel shall gather themselves unto thee. When ye blow an alarm, the camps that lie on the east part shall go forward. When ye blow an alarm the second time, the camps that lie on the south side shall take their journey. They shall blow an alarm for their journeys. But when the congregation is to be gathered together, ye shall blow, but ye shall not sound an alarm.
Right. So you shall blow. You blow this long sound, but not an alarm. And it's for us to gather together. Pick back up and skip about the war, because you got different sounds. Different sounds that you blow with the trumpet. Pick back up at 10.
Verse 10. Also, in the day of your gladness, and in your solemn days, and in the beginnings of your months, ye shall blow with the trumpets over your burnt offerings, and over the sacrifices of your peace offerings, that they may be to you for a memorial before your God. I am the Lord your God.
Right. So we're supposed to do this for a memorial. Numbers 29. And verse 1 and 2. Now, Numbers 29 goes over the feast days, and he breaks down all the offerings that you have to make on these feast days. So those of you that's studious and want to understand the law, this would be a good chapter to read. You can couple this with Leviticus 23. Verse 1 and 2 is all I want.
The book of Numbers, chapter 29 and verse 1. And in the 7th month, on the first day of the month, ye shall have an holy convocation. Ye shall do no servile work. It is a day of your blowing the trumpets unto you. And ye shall offer a burnt offering for a sweet savor unto the Lord. 1 young bullock, 1 ram, and 7 lambs of the first year without blemish.
Right, so today, that burnt offering is you. It's you. You offering yourself. You going through the furnace of adversity. You have to go through trials and tribulation and prove yourself worthy to the Lord. You're that burnt offering. That's you offering yourself when you go to the feast. So, this is why we gather together tonight to keep this feast, to blow the trumpets, even though the brothers was blowing them when I pulled up in the driveway. And our other brother, he's got this little small one, but unfortunately he didn't get well, I ain't gonna say fortunately, but I didn't get to laugh at him. So anyway, all right, so this is why we keep the feast. Now, just for a few minutes, we're going to go over some history It's about Israel on the Appomattox. Put that picture up there. So you see this picture on
The book cover.
yeah, book cover. You see this picture on different things. Some people think it's what's his name? Nat Turner, but it's not. Actually, this is a painting. Where is it? It's a painting from 1778. It's the Head of a Negro by John Singleton Copley, 1778. 1777 to 1778 is when it was painted. We got sound?
Is the mic working? Yeah, do you hear sound?
It's speaking to the mic.
Oh yeah. You probably got to turn it down.
All right, cool. Salaki.
It was going up here. I was seeing y'all, as he was talking.
Yeah, so go to the first one. Let's go to the first one. We're just going to some of the excerpts out of here so people can get an understanding, because there's this Edomite, just one of many, that tries to debunk everything that we try to bring out to our own people. So he went up to Israel Hill to and did a little video trying to debunk, they weren't Israelites. So we know we're Israel without the shadow of a doubt, because everything fits us. But pull up that first one. We're just going to give a little summary about what was going on up there. Yeah, yours are? Okay.
Shalom. It's the page 1 of the book. When Rudolph died at 26 in the year 1796, he left a will, written in his own hand, that assumed the form of a ringing abolitionist manifesto. I'm assuming that's humbly beg his slaves forgiveness for his part in the infamous practice of usurping rights of our fellow creatures, equally entitled with ourselves to the enjoyment of liberty and happiness. And he called for Sam White and the others to go free.
So look, this is Richard Randolph. He was not the only person to free his slaves. So looking at this history, there's plenty others that was freeing certain slaves, and you could tell that it was a spirit that the Lord was putting on them to let our people go. Go to the next one. Start at Sam White. You don't have to read just the highlighted part. It's the beginning of the paragraph.
Sam White's master, Richard Randolph, had offered a radical answer to Jefferson's moral dilemma. He denied that any dilemma existed. Randolph was not content to restore his slaves their God-given freedom. He also called for them to receive 400 acres of his land on which to build new lives as independent men and women. When Randolph's family carried out his will in 1810, after years of delay, his ex-slaves gave the name Israel Hill to their new home in the rolling terrain of Prince Edward County. And they called themselves Israelites.
Go ahead.
This was their promised land, to which they had been delivered out of bondage.
Right, so they named it Israel Hill because that land was promised to them. So they felt like they was going into their promised land, and they were freed just like the ancient Israelites were. Well, newsflash, they're still the Israelites. The same exact thing. So they got their freedom. That wasn't Pharaoh. You know what I mean? But still, the Lord put it on that man's spirit to free those slaves. He was 26 years old. He made a will, and then 6 months later, he died. And his wife was given a task of setting them free. And things, it didn't like happen overnight because these things are kind of complicated. But you had different things going on. Like there was a law where you could release your slaves. I forget what it's called. Start with an M. Manumission. It's called manumission. You could free your slaves. But they had to make a law for them to be able to do that. Go ahead.
But Israel Hill amounted to more than a personal promise fulfilled.
Mm-hmm.
It was a visionary Southern experiment in black freedom. In building this community of free, self-supporting black landowners in the very neighborhood where the Israelites had grown up as slaves.
So from this point, once they declared that, from this point, the writer of this book, Mr. Eli, he refers to them as Israelites all throughout the book. Go ahead.
Richard Randolph and some 90 African Americans had launched a small but audacious attempt to demonstrate that a harmonious society containing free people of both races could exist.
Right. So right now I'm trying to find out all the other names of the different plantations. Hence the name Farmville. There's a bunch of plantations around there. The street that my grandparents grew up on and great-grandparents, it's called Plank Road and River Road, which is the same road. And that plantation called Bazaar that Richard Randolph owned is right there. But I'm gonna keep digging, see if I can find out what other plantations are right there. Just research our history, find out what I can, and bring it to y'all. Go ahead.
Randolph conceived the idea that became Israel Hill, and his widow, Judith, overcame many obstacles to make his wishes come true. But the community's success over the decades had depended squarely on Sam White and his black fellow settlers. Their path, though arduous, had lain clearer before them because their Afro-Virginians had established themselves as free people in earlier years.
So before them, you also had our brothers and sisters get their freedom. Before that, it started in the late 1700s. Go to the next one.
By the time. In the middle.
Oh, okay. By the time Richard Randolph wrote his will, Prince Edward County already had a small free black population. Mm-hmm. The group would grow noticeably during the time period before Randolph's germ of an idea came to fruition on Israel Hill. At least 3 total black or mixed race families had bought land in the 1780s and 90s, and a couple more would do so about the time Richard's former slaves settled on their new acreage.
Acreage. Like acre?
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead.
Other pioneering free blacks in Prince Edward owned no ground, yet by the 1790s were already developing strategies to make the most of their freedom.
Right, so they had to pass laws first. A slave can't own land. You can't own land. Where we at? Go to the next one. Though no longer in bondage.
I didn't even think about it. They still was tiptoeing, bro.
Oh, of course.
Right.
Tiptoeing today, but they was really tiptoeing back
Yeah,
then.
they. So Jamil was saying they were tiptoeing, meaning they had to be careful about everything they did and they said. Now, another thing that I keep seeing in the book is you had these free brothers was take Edomite wives. They were taking white wives, some of them, and they want. He was even going into how some, married couples, the wife would have a kid and the kid would be a mulatto. Yeah, it's you the pappy. They was creeping around.
What was it legal for? Because I know they came out with that movie not too long ago where it was like illegal in Virginia to marry a white person.
So yeah, you got.
You don't know that.
I think he was saying that that type of law was laxed in Farmville. They really didn't care. It just, what I'm saying, it can depend on where you go, because they were taking white women as wives. Some of them was doing that, and that wasn't. You didn't see where somebody got lynched for that.
I guess that makes sense. I guess it's like now where they tell you, you got to obey the speed limit, but sometimes even when you drive past the police, you can be going 70 to 50, and they might.
It just depends on what they want to prosecute you for. Yeah. So, but what he's saying. It wasn't until later, it wasn't until after slavery that you had a separation, because most people were farmers or whatever. And he was saying that later, when you had like people rising up in social status, that they became to be real like prejudiced up in Farmville. Because I know from being a kid, when I was a kid, how it was and how my parents complained about it. But there was a time period. They was marrying of the other race. But then after that, like, nah. No, they won't put up with it.
Became too powerful in the economic system, bro. Making too much money.
Well, when you have people rise up in status, like, yeah, we too good for y'all. But when most people was farmers, it was different, is what he was saying. And, the way he formulated everything by going over records. Marriage records, lawsuits, all kinds of stuff. And then news articles and stories. Pick up at...
This the next one.
Yeah, where it says... Hill's new residence, up at the top.
Second line. No, second line of the page. Go up. No, it's on that page. You just gotta go up, not the highlighted part. Start a couple lines.
Yeah, it says...
Right there where your mouse is at. Second line.
Oh, okay. All right.
Start where it says by the time. Right above
it. By the time Israel Hill was settled in 1810 to 1811, it seemed that the Hill's new residence might in fact need the strength of a Hercules. And not only because there were houses to build, land to clear, and crops to cultivate.
So the reason he said that is because the original brother, his name was Hercules White. That land, he was like the main guy that was given that land and his freedom. Go ahead.
Though no longer in bondage, the men and women of Israel Hill lived in a land where both law and custom limited the rights of free blacks and ensured that relatively few African Americans became free in the first place.
Right, go ahead.
In 1806, the state passed a new law requiring any blacks who received their liberty to leave the state within a year.
See that? If you got your freedom, you had to leave Virginia within a year. But I don't think he goes into it, but there was like a waiver or something you could sign and stay. Go ahead. Yeah, man, he make laws for everything.
Probably making you a dog or something.
Who knows?
You sign this, you'll be a dog.
Go ahead.
That junk probably already exists and we don't even know it, man. That junk crazy. Authorities did not apply that law to Richard Randolph's freed people, whose emancipation had been ordained long before. Still, neither Sam White nor any other free Afro-Virginian could vote.
See?
Serve on
So
juries.
even though they had their freedom, they still they couldn't. Like Jamil said, they had to walk on eggshells. You're still a second-class citizen, irregardless. Like you can't. Excuse me. You couldn't testify against a white person.
Bro, literally, animals, dogs got more rights than at this time.
Go ahead.
Because you know them people care about their dogs more than us.
Yeah, well, this was chattel slavery. The only way that, even though, because you had slave owners that wanted to set some of their slaves free, and they couldn't do it until they passed these laws. Go ahead. You was gonna say something?
No, I was just gonna say, like, in my neighborhood, there's a lot of ducks, and I literally, like, with them ducks walking across the street.
Oh yeah, everybody
traffic,
stop.
stop for them things. That's how you know they got more rights.
Yeah,
than
you
us.
can be out in short pump, and traffic be stopped up on both sides of the road because they walking across the street. Go ahead.
Where was that at? Okay. Afro-Virginians could still, neither Sam White nor any other free Afro-Virginian could vote, serve on juries, or join the militia. The law had required white to secure a license from the county.
It's talking about Sam White, Hercules White's son. He had to get a license. Go ahead.
From the county court to possess a gun, and later prohibited black ownership of firearms outright.
Right. The reason they did that was because of Nat Turner, which was Southern Virginia, still in the same state. So they were scared.
Franklin County, right?
The people.
Probably. Go ahead.
The people of Israel Hill owned land, but many of their fellow free blacks did not, and therefore had to work for whites to earn their bread.
Right. So even though you had, they were free and had certain freedoms, most of our people didn't. Even after slavery, you had to work for your enemies. You know, straight up, that's a curse. Therefore, you should serve your enemies. Go ahead. Go to the next one and start with the abolitionists.
We should be on 6.
The abolitionists did understand that slavery was full of horrors. Prince Edward and Virginia's other tobacco counties struggled through the economic depressions during many of Sam White's years as a free man.
So look, so it tells you right there what they mainly sold, what the main crop was, tobacco. And then you come to Richmond, what you got? Philip Morris. All that stuff go together. Go ahead.
Land and possessions were frequently forfeited and auctioned off by the sheriff or sold in desperation. And slaves constituted the main category of personal property.
Right. So you might get sold off. Because another thing they did too, if the slave owner needed money, he could use you for collateral. Because so some people, when the slave owner died and they had to go and be with somebody else, whoever he owed, they became that person's property. You got split up. Literally, like what Mill was saying, talking about how animals got treated better. And you were somebody's property for life. But fortunate for some of our brothers and sisters, they got their freedom towards late 1700s. You can see things was getting easier for us. And some places I'm sure they dealt with some harsh racism on top of it, but just not here in Israel Hill, which is Farmville, Virginia area, Appomattox, the Appomattox River area. Go ahead.
Most whites preferred not to break up black families for reasons of humanity and of economy.
Mm-hmm.
Demoralized slaves did not produce as much.
Right, demoralized. But that's in the scriptures, man. Deuteronomy 28, was it 32?
Try to make sure you're happy so you can work better.
Right, try to do something to keep you happy. Because you know what? Like when I was young and we would go cut folks' grass, right? They would, especially those like white folks that had money, when you're out there cutting their grass, they'll come out like give you water and give you little pieces of chocolate. Yeah, I haven't seen nobody do that in years. But they would give you pieces of chocolate. But that chocolate had, antioxidants and stuff in it. But no, it's not. It's to help you. It's to like give you nutrients while you out there working in that sun. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you don't. All right, verse 32. You turn your mic off.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 32. Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given unto another people, and thine eyes shall look and fail with longing for them all the day long, and there shall be no might in thine hand.
Right, they splitting the families up. There was no might in your hand. Now, it's the more I dig into it, these plantations won't far from each other. They're all over the place, right? And then some folks will be married. You see it in that Turner movie, Birth of a Nation. Cherry, his wife, she lived on another plantation. But at night, he would sneak over there to be with his wife. And they did this a lot. But if you try to run away, they send somebody after you. But yeah, they did this. You might get separated. You just ain't want to end up somewhere where you couldn't, couldn't find your people at. Yeah, or like
The Django.
Goochland or something like that, somewhere you can't run to, at night. Like, boss, give me a pass to go see my wife. Remember, that's what Nat did. He went, got him a pass so he could go see Cherry. All right. Before we go back, go to verse 48.
If you can play instruments, then you gotta earn a little bit of cash on the side.
Ain't no telling. If Master could make money off of you. See, they wanted to live in high society. You could see that in the Nat Turner movie. They were used to living a certain way.
Yeah, I just said that. I think it's 12 years a slave. You remember the dude was playing violin?
Oh yeah.
Just getting money, like playing the violin. And he ended up, did he buy his freedom?
I forgot how that
Oh, that's another thing that's in here. You could buy your freedom. That go right back to Leviticus 25. That you could buy your own freedom. But somehow, when you get to Deuteronomy 28:6 and it said, no man shall save thee, or no man shall buy thee, people get amnesia and don't remember you can be redeemed by your brother. Go ahead. Verse 48.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28 and verse 48. Therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies which the Lord shall send against thee, in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in want of all things. And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee.
Oh, wait a minute. He shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. Let's go back to where we were. Yep. Where was we at? Most wives prefer not to break up the families. Pick up right there.
Yet black men, women, and children were often moved about, families split apart, and children as young as 3 or 4 separated from their mothers. Countless groups of manacled slaves.
Hold on. Manacled slaves. What does that mean? Manacles.
Mix.
Can you can he pull up Google?
You said manacle, right?
Manacle. Countless groups of manacled slaves. NACLE. Can't see it.
Yeah.
He said he can't see it.
Yeah, it's shackled for the hand and wrist.
Yep. Yeah, put that up there. Yeah. When you was reading Deuteronomy 28:48, I was like, yeah, that's at the end of this verse. I mean, at the end of this. Yeah, go ahead and read that for him.
Manacle. It is a noun. A shackle for the hand or wrist. Handcuff, usually used in plural. 2. Something used as a restraint.
Right. So drop that and go back to the book. So countless groups, pick it up right there.
Countless groups of
Manacles.
manacled slaves trudged down Prince Edward County's main road towards the Cotton States.
Right, down the main road toward the Cotton States. The Cotton States would be plantations. You know, like cotton estates.
Coming out here in Williamsburg, they had a lot of cotton fields.
The rivers, because you know the best way of transportation then was by boat. So your plantations were on rivers. Yep. This one was Appomattox. It ran right through it. Runs right through it. All right, next one. It starts with Sam White.
Sam White lived in a place and had known a time as late as his own middle age in which a slave who stole bacon or whiskey might find himself sentenced to have both ears nailed to a pillory and then cut off, and then to be burned on the hand with a hot iron, and to receive 39 lashes.
And 39 lashes for stealing bacon? Are you kidding me?
Hey man,
I get vexed every time I go to Publix and make me a salad, and I see, when I get to the end of that joint, I see bacon bits. Why would you take everything that's good for you and then put bacon bits on top of it? It's just like having other people teach us the Bible.
Hey man, you know, white folks, they love their pork and whiskey.
Yeah.
Come on now.
And guns.
But no, that's what I was thinking about back when he said they had to have a license for the guns.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time back then, you had to go hunt. So
They said
like,
a black man had to have a license.
nah, that's what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
the black man.
But that's how that's how you gonna go get your meat. It won't no store where they probably dead, but you ain't have enough money to go in there and buy meat all the time. So you hunt it for it.
Right. Where we at? Oh yeah, the lashes. The law. Oh yeah. Masters and overseers, yeah.
Masters and overseers whipped slaves without any due process at all. The law denied bond people the right to
Hold
own
on. Bond people. Bond people. Man, we got to do it. Leviticus 25. So, like, we hit this a lot when we're on the street teaching. Because people think, like, a servant is a slave. If you only read the NIV, you would think so. You would believe that any servant is a slave. It's not what that means. There's a difference between a servant and a bond servant. What verse am I on? 30. You got it. It's highlighted in blue, ain't it?
39. My brother dwelleth and be waxing poor.
Yeah, read that. Yeah, read that one.
The book of Leviticus, chapter 25 and verse 39. And if thy brother that dwelleth by thee be waxen poor, and be sold unto thee, thou shalt not compel him to serve as a bond servant.
See, a bond servant. A bond servant is someone that does hard bondage, hard rigor. They work you hard. Go ahead.
But as an hired servant, and as a sojourner, he shall be with thee, and shall serve thee unto the year of Jubilee.
Right, so there's a difference between a servant and a bond servant. The bond servant is a slave. Pick back up at 42.
Verse 42. For they are my servants, which I brought forth out of the land of Egypt. They shall not be sold as bondmen. Thou shalt not rule over them with rigor,
See?
but shalt fear thy God.
So that's showing you somebody that you rule over with rigor is a bond servant. Let's drop this. Don't want to go no deeper than that. Go back to the book. We should almost be done.
Last picture.
It is? Okay. The law denied, yeah. Just read that part, finish that part.
The law denied bond people the right to own property, and it was exceedingly difficult for them to own themselves by purchasing their freedom.
See, like that's right here in Leviticus 2. Let's go back to it. Leviticus 25 and verse 48 and 49.
The book of Leviticus, chapter 25 and verse 48. After that he is sold, he may be redeemed again.
Mm-hmm.
One of his brother may redeem him.
Right, so somebody else, one of your brothers, could redeem you, pay money to get you out of servitude. Go ahead.
Either his uncle or his uncle's son may redeem him, or any that is nigh of kin unto him of his family may redeem him.
So the person that's nigh kin unto us is Christ. That's our people. He can redeem us, and he's going to redeem us. Go ahead.
Or if he be able, he may redeem himself.
Right, that's what they talking about right there, about you buying your own freedom. You can redeem yourself. But somehow, I mean, people just don't look into the past. You know, but all praise to the Most High. Like he said, he going to turn the hearts of the fathers to the children and the hearts of the children to their fathers. We're looking back. Now, another thing, I didn't put no snapshots up of was, no, you good. Is when we went up there, even on the way up there, me and Jason, as you getting close to Farmville, you get to Rice, and you see these plaques on the road, Lee's Retreat, Lee's Retreat, Lee's Retreat, man. They're chasing Lee down. It was General Lee chasing him down. They end up catching him like 30 miles away on the Appomattox. But that whole Israel Hill, man, it's so much history there. So much history there. But then for somebody to think, oh, you going to debunk. Shut up. You ain't debunking nothing.
It all started right here.
Right, Virginia. Mm-hmm. 1619. That's for up this part. Yeah. You see, another thing people don't realize, when it comes to the Englishmen, it started in 1619. The Spanish already had Florida, South Carolina, maybe Florida,
Texas,
yeah,
California, basically
the South, like by the Gulf. Yeah, they already had slaves there. And the reason that the boat ended up going to Newport News is because it was in the Gulf, headed to Mexico, taking slaves there, but they were fighting because they were warring. So you had the Portuguese, the Spanish, the French, they warring against each other, fighting against each other because they all wanted that same money. You know how they are. They want that money. So they were warring down there, and the ship had to come around and ends up in Newport News. And then, the Englishmen started getting slaves, started getting us. But it's a lot. It's a lot of history. Don't be fooled. They got permission from the Pope in 1505 to get slaves and bring them over here. The Spanish and the Portuguese did. Where was the Inquisition? Spain and Portugal. In 1492, they kicked out the Negroes, the black Jews from Spain in 1492, and kicked them out of Portugal, Lisbon, Portugal, in 1498. That's what started the transatlantic slave trade. But anyway, it's been quite some time since we've been over history, so we wanted to bring this out. This Sabbath, we going into Amalek. We're going into Amalek. Let's give them a little preview. Numbers chapter 24. That's it, man. This is what we're going to close out with. Numbers 24 and verse 20.
The book of Numbers, chapter 24 and verse 20. And when he looked on Amalek, he took up his...
Hold on, bro. Hold on. Start at 18.
Verse 18.
I want to start at 18 because even though Amalek descends from Edom, Amalek has a special place in the heart of the Lord. The Lord has a special place for him. Verse 18.
And Edom shall be a possession.
Mm-hmm.
Mount Seir also shall be a possession for his enemies. And Israel shall do valiantly.
Go ahead.
Out of Jacob shall come he that shall have dominion, and shall destroy him that remaineth of the city.
Right.
And when he looked on Amalek, he took up his parable and said, Amalek was the first of the nations.
So Amalek was the very first nation to attack Israel when we came out of Egypt. The very first. Showing you what? That he's going to be our main enemy. He's going to be that thorn in our side. I don't care where you go. Who do you think financed the slave trade? Who financed them boats? Who sold slaves? And then they try to hide it. And if you say something, they say, oh, you're being anti-Semitic. Well, what do you call what you've done to us? Go ahead.
But his latter end shall be that he perish forever.
And we didn't say that. We didn't say that. But we know through the spirit of this book, the Holy Ghost, the Spirit of the Lord, who Amalek is. Cue the music. Thanks for tuning in to tonight's class. I'm Brother Jacob.
Brother Roy.
And on OBS, we got Brother Tyshawn doing his thing. All right, with that, y'all, we say shalom.
Chapter 18 and verse 21. Then came Peter to him and said, Lord, how oft shall my brother sin against me, and I forgive him? Till 7 times.
It ain't nowhere that I can't go. You see me, you see him, I'm like children in the flame though. It's because I follow him though. He the light to my feet, it's like flames what I follow. But let me stop for you heathos. I've been crossed many times, so yes I know the pain, yo. And forgive is where I ain't go. Told the brother get in line, giving shots like a needle. I've been sinning for real, murder, but I ain't killed for real. Shot for shot to seal the deal. Now I'm here, just swallow the pill. Now I'm woozy, don't know how to act. Devilish mind on Philly attack. My spirit to flesh had taken it back, and I ain't thinking about bringing it back. Tap, tap, I think I ain't hear it right. The Lord come like a thief at night, but I ain't believe the hype. Yeah, like Saul when I seen the night, but had me feeling like Paul when I found the light. Cap, 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 cap. You say you love your people, but that's cap, cap, cap. You swear you don't be lying, but that's cap, cap, cap. You say you did atonement, but that's cap, cap, cap. I say cap, 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 cap. You say you love your nation, but that's cap, cap, cap. You swear you done with envy, but that's cap, cap, cap. You say you did atonement, but that's cap, cap, cap. I say.
So Peter said, if a brother sin against me, he offends. He does something unlawful. Could have took your money, could have taken